For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. WynnBET is now live in all of these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs in every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning. The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike. I'm here with Sam. Sam, how you doing?
Very good, my friend. It's crazy to think that somehow we made it. The shortest offseason in Suns history. Or I guess rivaling the shortest offseason in Suns history. No, I think the shortest. This one was shorter than... It's definitely
the shortest. It might be one of the shortest ever.
Then 93 to 76, it was shorter than those two.
Yes, right? Because it's a shorter offseason in general because of the season started late last year. And then the Suns went through the entire finals, of course. And then it's a short offseason after that. So now it's like one of the shortest offseasons of any team ever, and just for the Bucks and the Suns. And yeah, here we are. We're recording on Sunday, and there's a preseason game tomorrow.
Yeah, 70-something days. I don't have the exact figure, but it's not supposed to feel like a really long time, but I guess we made it.
How are you feeling?
I mean, look, low-key, there's a part of me that's like not ready for the season to come back. I'm not even going to lie. I'm still like recovering from what we did during the playoff run was crazy, but also once you start to get back into the swing of things and see all of the great Suns reporters who are covering the team via training camp, and you see the quotes coming out from media day, and you see the videos, and it starts to hit you. Okay, we're back. There is an element of let's settle down and get to business that is kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think doing the internal development series helped me sort of get back into the mindset of covering it and get excited. I don't know that I was excited yet. I was sort of almost dreading it in a way because it just sneaks up on you so fast, and it was such a tough ending to the season. And then you start talking about these players and how young they are and how much they can improve, and it's like, oh man, this team could be really, really good. And I think that's kind of what got me back in the mindset to be ready for basketball. Today, I watched NBA basketball. I watched some of the Nets-Lakers game. I mean, it was kind of NBA basketball, but it was there. They were in their jerseys. They were playing on the court, and it's already happening. Pretty crazy.
I think I saw Javon Carter started for the Nets in that game, right?
Yeah. I saw Javon Carter.
Did he play well?
I saw him share on Instagram a highlight of Kyrie Irving roasting him in practice and said, "If I see this one more time," like, that's good. That's good. That's perfect. I mean, honestly, it's perfect for Javon Carter to be guarding Kyrie Irving in practice every single day. Is kind of amazing. All right, Sam, we have something that we wanted to announce on this episode. People who listen to this podcast for a long time, who have listened for a long time, or even new listeners, really, know that we don't really talk about ourselves that much. We don't do a lot of promotion, especially early on in the podcast. We usually save it to late in the episode. But there's something that we wanted to announce early on in this episode so that people listening have a chance to know about it. And that's that Sam and I, for the Timeline podcast, are starting...
breaking up. It's been a good run. It's been a long run, my friends.
Yep. Imagine if they opened this podcast and it was like 3 minutes long. And that was the end of the podcast.
No, that's too easy to tell. You need to leave 57 minutes of silence after this so that they don't suspect anything.
No, what's actually happening is that we're starting a Patreon. We're starting a Patreon because, honestly, it's been a lot of work to do this podcast for a long time. And we wanted to try to bring you more content ultimately. That's the main goal for us. And people have asked us in the past, how can they support us for this podcast and the work that we do on this podcast? And this will give people an opportunity to do it. I want to start, before I get into just explaining it, and if you don't care about this, feel free to skip forward a few minutes. But for those who do care, if you just listen and you're not interested in extra stuff, don't worry. We're still going to do the same podcast, weekly podcast for you guys every single week. So you'll still get the normal podcast that we usually release on Sunday or Monday. That will remain the same every single week throughout the season, save for a few weeks that we take vacations off here. So don't worry about that. But for those of you who want extra stuff, we will be bringing you some extra stuff with this Patreon. Sam, I want to give you a chance to talk about it too.
Well, I'm really excited for obvious reasons, but I think it's super important that you said that right off the bat. We're going to do the same level of free stuff, same free podcast. The YouTube channel content also, because many of you are interested in that, is not going to change. That will continue to be the baseline that everyone gets. If you are going to pay for our Patreon, it's going to be of your own volition, and it is only going to be because you are getting bonus content. That's going to be the only reason. So, but yeah, I just think that's really important to stress up front so that people don't think like we're pulling a bait and switch on them or anything. Right. It's going to stay exactly the same. It's just if you want to pay, that means you get even more. But yeah, I'll let you do the explaining of the fine details.
Yeah, we have 3 tiers, and it's basically, there's a $3 a month tier that you can sign up now. Just go to patreon.com/thetimeline, or I suggest downloading the app on your phone, but you can sign up there. $3 it just gives you a chance to support us with a small amount of money every month. And that would give you access to, we're going to write. You know, Sam has written for the Bright Side of the Sun and other places, and I've written in the past. I'm excited to write about the NBA for you guys. Every once in a while, we'll put stuff out in writing that we didn't really want to do on the podcast, or just to expand on stuff we've talked about on the podcast. And that'll give you access to that with the $3 a month. There's also a tier for $6 a month that we're calling the Over Timeline tier. This is an extra podcast every week. We had a lot of fun doing extra podcasts in the playoffs. There was a lot, but it was a lot of work, truthfully. And along with the internal development series that you guys just heard, 2 podcasts a week there. We had a lot of fun doing that too. If you want an extra podcast from us every week, it's $6 a month. You can sign up at our Patreon. You'll get an extra podcast every week. We'll do mailbags, AMAs. We'll get into some weird stuff in the extra paywall podcast, if you will, that maybe we wouldn't want to get into on the normal podcast. So those are people who are really interested in it. And there's a $10 a month tier. If you're interested, just want to give us some extra money, we'll give you thank you messages on our YouTube channel. No pressure to sign up for any of these, but they're all available to you at patreon.com/thetimeline. There's a link in the description of this podcast. Feel free to click it. Check them out. One thing on that too, if you sign up today, you'll get access to everything in October. You're not going to be charged until November 1st. So if you want to sign up right now, take a look at the stuff that we have for you this month. you won't get charged until November 1st. You can see the type of stuff that we're doing there. We're going to do our best to bring you interesting and fun content behind that paywall. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about look, if we're talking about it honestly, we are both very grateful to be in this position where we talk to a lot of Suns fans every week. But at the end of the day, this is a very niche topic that we cover, which means that the extra podcasts for those who are interested are going to be even more niche. They're going to be super, super niche. And I think for those who are interested, that's a benefit. Like it can be super personalized. There will be AMAs, there will be mailbags on our weekly patron-only podcasts. You can kind of dictate the way the conversation goes a little bit more. You can ask us about things that are not necessarily Suns related, but are otherwise basketball related that we otherwise don't get to. You can ask us about things that aren't basketball related at all. We're kind of open to doing anything with that amount of time and that level of space. But the whole point is it's just going to be extra.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I would add with the YouTube channel, I've said this before on the podcast, but it's been a while, so I'll just say it again. I am very happy to have put out all the content we have on YouTube over the years. We have never seen a cent from that YouTube channel, and we never will because we haven't tried to monetize it because we so frequently use copyright-owned footage from the NBA. So if you currently go on our YouTube channel, if you like our YouTube channel a lot and the content we put out, even if you see ads, on our videos, that's because the NBA has, or in some cases, other organizations have placed a copyright claim on those videos. They are seeing the money. We are not seeing any of the money. That does not mean in any way you should feel compelled, like you have to pay for our YouTube content. Again, we're stressing no one has to pay. But just so you know, we've never made a dime off of YouTube. If you would like the option to support, you can now do so.
Yeah. And, ultimately, Sam and I we don't work for a website. We don't work for a newspaper. We don't work for a radio station, anything like that. We do this on our own because we like the freedom that doing it on our own does. Of course, Blue Wire has been a great resource to us. All of the podcasts that you'll hear on the Patreon will be ad-free. No more ads on those ones. So you'll just listen to just us talking for that time. And ultimately, the people that pay will be the ones that are producing the podcast for us. So we'll give you what you want if you end up being a patron. For those who don't know, by the way, Patreon is a system for creators. It's a website for creators like us who create content where people can pay a little bit to get extra content. And so if you're confused, hopefully that'll help you understand that. I just want to say before we move on, we'll get right into basketball. Thank you to everyone who's listened to this podcast. We really appreciate that you have spent so much time with us over the last 3 years. We've done over 200 episodes now. Of this podcast.
Which we didn't even notice until the other week.
We flew through so many in the playoffs, doing one after every game. We appreciate everyone that listens to this podcast. We appreciate all the interactions that we've had with you guys online. If you end up becoming a patron for us, thank you. If you don't, thank you as well. I mean, we appreciate all of you, and thank you everyone for listening to us. But if you want to check it out, once again, patreon.com/The Timeline. We'll talk about it every once in a while on here. We won't beat you over the head with it here or on Twitter. But thank you, everyone. Let's move on. Stuff that happened in the last week. Lots of stuff since our last episode, which was about Cameron Payne. Media Day. Media Day happened. And training camp started and is about to end. So lots of stuff has come. I want to give a shout out real quick. All the great Suns reporters that go to these events, we get so much good stuff from these guys. They ask such great questions, whether it be Dwayne, Kellen, Gerald, Brendan, whoever goes to these events. Thank you to them because obviously people like Sam and I need it in order to do our jobs as well. So thank you to those guys. But we want to get into, Sam, actually you had an idea to talk about Media Day and training camp. I'll let you explain it.
Well, it's that time of year. It's, we passed through optimism season at one point. Now it's actually here. Training camp is here. We put guys on muscle watch. There are these varying concepts that always come up, these quotables that come up in training camp every year, and you try to decipher what's real and what's not. So I thought we would play a very simple game today, Mike, of buy or sell. I'm going to give you some things that were said, some videos that were shared online that maybe made the rounds around Suns Twitter this week. And I was thinking we could have a little conversation about each one and the extent to which we actually think it means something or nothing. What do you say?
I'm excited. I'm very into it. And I think it's a good time to talk about it that way because really there's no new players. We have Landry Shamet. We have JaVale McGee. In the past, there have been, Chris Paul last year was huge. So to talk about him, we don't have anything like that. So I think it's a good way to look at it. And I think later on when we talk about Monty Williams, this type of stuff, these quotes will be a good part of that conversation. So throw them at me. Let's see what they are.
Okay, number one, I've got a wave. This one's it's a two-part because there are two quotes here. But in general, it's a wave of Mikal Bridges hype. Because if there is any player that we have heard the most about at training camp, I think it's Mikal Bridges so far. And I want to break this down into two quotes because two different guys said two really interesting things today about Mikal. Not today, in the past few days about Mikal. I'll start with Monty Williams. Monty was asked about Mikal and his role and his development just today. This is from Gerald Bourget at PHNX. Go follow him. I imagine you already do. With the quote today from Monty that said, quote, "I knew what he could do from cutting and moving without the ball, but now he's gotten so used to playing with the ball, and we need him to. We want to put him in environments that allow for him to be a third option for us." So third option was something that Monty Williams said about Mikal Bridges. That was just today. But then the second part of this is Chris Paul asked a couple days ago about who he thought added the most to their game from his eyes, his vantage point, over the short offseason, and he also immediately answered Mikal Bridges. His quote here, "That Mikal is something else, man. Y'all think he's just some nice guy, but he's a fun guy to be around, and he works, so you respect everything about him. I'm excited for him this season," end quote. Mike, effusive praise from Chris Paul.
Right.
Monty Williams using the term third option about Mikal Bridges, which I think is something we've talked about here before, just a couple weeks ago when we did our episode with Durag. What do you make of the Mikal Bridges praise heading into year 4?
First of all, hype, which is very fun. But second of all, I thought it was an interesting kind of hype because it wasn't Mikal Bridges. They weren't saying things like, "Oh man, he worked on his shot a lot this offseason," or Mikal Bridges came back with 10 pounds more of muscle. It wasn't like that kind of,
which is what I was expecting.
Yeah,
frankly.
Yeah. It was more like almost more specific in that it was saying that he seems to be ready for a bigger role. And the Suns kind of needed that. And I think twofold. One, they didn't sign anyone really to be a scorer, right? There's Landry Shamet. That's the closest thing that they got in this offseason to be a scorer. And then there's JaVale McGee. Those are the two biggest offseason acquisitions. JaVale McGee's a finisher. That's it. He's not creating for himself at all. Somebody has to be that third guy who can create shots for himself and for others. And there's two guys I think that you can point at that are going to be the two obvious contenders for that. And that's Mikal Bridges and that's DeAndre Ayton. And for Mikal to be that guy, when we looked at the stats, when we looked at when we did our internal development episode about Mikal Bridges, I'd say that there's a good statistical case to be made that he can do a lot more, whether that be his ability to hit pull-up shots, his ability to create and make nice reads when he passes to other guys, or his finishing at the rim. And you combine those three things, I think he has a chance. He specifically said, I know this isn't one of your quotes, that he worked on his ball handling in the offseason.
He did say that.
If he worked on his ball handling and Monty Williams appears to be willing to give him a bigger role, then I'm buying in. I'm buying in on this because, and here's the main reason, you can give him the ball 25 feet away from the basket and he can call a screen and he can do something with that. And the ability to have the ball that far away from the basket and be able to do things with it, that I think is the easiest way to give opportunities to a player for a coach. So I'm buying in on it. What do you think?
I'm buying in on it too. Not necessarily to the degree of I know I've said in the past, I was really high on Mikal Bridges when we recorded our Mikal Bridges internal development episode, and I remain high on him. Looking at it from the prism of trying to be realist. Maybe him being a third scorer means he averages 16 points per game this season. That's entirely within the realm of possibility. That could be all it means. Not necessarily that he explodes to 20, 22. I certainly think he has the talent and potential to do that as well. But in my opinion, we looked at the statistical profile with Mikal, and it's really he's got the versatile 3-step game. When he wants to, he can finish on the inside. He's got the great mid-range jumper with the high release point. He's even shown the ability to hit pull-up threes occasionally. He does it rarely, but he actually shoots a really good percentage on them. He just needs confidence and reps. And I think the finals run gave him some confidence. And if coach, if Monty's willing to give him the reps, then watch out. I really think it could happen. So I'm buying fully on this.
I love it. You got another one?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move over to the next 4-year guy, his companion. Yeah, DeAndre Ayton dribble moves. This was one of the most widely shared, if not the most widely shared video on Suns Twitter that I saw. An 11-second clip, also from our friend Gerald, of DeAndre Ayton working on a drill where he catches the ball in the mid-post and he takes, I counted 3 dribbles, Mike. I counted
crossovers.
1, 2, 3, multiple cross dribbles. He catches the ball in the mid-post. He takes 3 dribbles, and he ends it with a step-back mid-range shot. Obviously, it goes in. It's wet. This one 11-second clip got 15,000 views, which may not be viral or anything, but effectively for Suns Twitter training camp, that's going viral for Suns Twitter training camp.
It might be the clip that got the most plays from training camp at this
absolutely
point.
It was a point of discussion, because if DeAndre Ayton puts together a dribble package and demonstrates this soon into his career that he can do that in the game, he's going to be a problem. But of course, the question, Mike, buy or sell?
Look, maybe it's still optimism season for me. Do I want him taking a ton of fadeaways? Not necessarily, but I kind of talked myself into him shooting more in our internal development episode about him, because we talked about his passing and we talked about his driving, and so much of what opens up the lanes either to pass or to drive is his ability to hit that shot. So would I have preferred that he took one hard dribble towards the basket and dunked on whoever was defending him? Yeah. Do we know what the purpose of that drill was? No, not necessarily. Maybe that's not what they were working on, right? So it's hard to judge based on that one clip alone. But I think that he's at the point where that's the next step for him offensively, is dribbling. Whether or not I want him shooting a ton of fadeaways, I think is irrelevant, because I think what's important is he looked confident in those dribbles. Look, it's not much to go off of. So
I'd rather 11 seconds.
I'd rather buy in on it than sell, because it's 11 seconds. And if you're going to say, nah, he can't dribble, look at that. It's 11 seconds. That's bad, I think. And I think I want to buy into it, so I'm going to. I want to buy into it. I think that's something that I'm excited to see him work on. Hopefully we can see some. Look, we made fun of you on our episode, Kellen and I, about you saying you only wanted him to dribble once towards the basket, maybe twice.
Which I do.
And we made jokes about you saying that you wanted him to do crossovers, and then there was a clip of him doing crossovers.
Doing
kind
a crossover.
Funny.
It is a little funny.
And look, I don't think he's going to do a ton of that in a game.
But okay,
but dribbling, I think is more of a. Anyway, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, that's where I wanted to take it. I mean, what's a better shot? Not to push back, because I want DeAndre Ayton to dribble in all the forms. Yeah. But what's a better shot?
I mean, at the rim,
he catches in the short roll, he takes one dribble and tomahawks it in a guy's fucking face, which is what I want
Amari
him to
Stoudemire,
do.
Right.
Versus 3 or 4 finesse dribbles into an Anthony Davis style step back. Like what are we talking about here? The math on that one is pretty simple. However, I'll take dribbles in any form I can get. I buy the fact, if I'm being honest, it looked a little bit loose to me. There's one 11-second clip.
It's 11 seconds. I mean, look, you're right, though. It wasn't perfect.
I think he can do it in practice. Like, I think he's talented enough to do it. I don't think we're at the stage. I'm going to sell on the notion of Monty going into game 1 of the regular season and 100%. Letting him do it. Well, that's my final.
Do you have another DeAndre Ayton quote?
No, not. I know what you're referring to, but it's not in this segment.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about it now, because he also said he figured out the big man role that he didn't really like last season. And I'll say this: I thought that was a fascinating clip. It sort of mirrors things that he's talked about in the past. Of he doesn't like the idea of limiting him by calling him a big. He wants to expand his game, and that's important that he does expand his game. And I'll be honest, I messaged you when it happened. I kind of liked the fact that he felt confident enough to say that he wanted to do more, because sometimes what's missing with him is confidence. And the fact that he's willing to go to the media essentially and say, I deserve to do more, is a great thing for his confidence. I want him to believe in himself, because that's the only way it's going to happen. Often he has the skills and he's just missing the confidence. So that confidence is huge for him. Whether or not Monty Williams lets him do it, I think is entirely dependent on if he just does it himself. Because if he takes a few dribbles and hits a shot, and then he takes a few dribbles and hits another shot, and then he hits another shot or whatever, like over time, he has to prove that he's capable of doing it in order for Monty Williams to let him do that. Now, whether that be in practice or in game, there are things that are there for him.
Yeah,
now,
totally.
That could be when they're dropping off of him, he takes that shot and he hits it, or it could be they're dropping off of him, he takes a dribble towards the defender, he gets fouled, he goes to the line. That's what Embiid does, right? He can do both of those things. Or it could be that he's doing the DHO and he fakes it and he takes 2 dribbles towards the rim, he gets fouled at the rim, or he dunks it. Mm-hmm. Right? Those things are there for him without Monty Williams changing the plays that they currently run.
And by the way, we've talked a lot about Monty, and I absolutely agree with all that, but Monty himself has said the extent to which Chris Paul is like another coach, an in-game manager for him. So Chris has to take a step back sometimes and understand leaving room for DeAndre to seize those opportunities as well. Not getting on him too hard necessarily. We always joke with Kellen about the time he came on our podcast last year and said, is there a 1% chance that he completely destroys DA's confidence? Obviously that didn't happen last year, but you need to give him the space to grow and develop. And, so if you kind of don't sweat it if occasionally he tries a couple of those dribbles and you don't get the result you want necessarily.
It's ultimately right now, it is up to DeAndre Ayton to prove it. And that's not a bad place for him to be. It's year 4, he's had time to develop. The offense is now, Chris Paul's getting older. The offense needs a little bit more, and he has the ball in his hands quite a bit. He's up there towards the top of the league of touches for centers. So it's up to him to take it now at this point. And that's the reason I want to buy it, because that confidence that he had in saying that he felt he could do more is one of the biggest things missing for him in his game. So I want to buy in right now, and it's up to him, I think, in these first few months of the season to prove to Monty that he can do more, and I'm excited to see him try that.
Well, I will say you bought McHale being a third option. You bought Ayton being a dribble connoisseur. Uh-huh. If you're right on both, it's going to be spooky hours.
Oh, yeah. That's a title contender, yeah.
Going to be spooky hours. Let's move on. I want to talk about something that Landry Shamet said. And this one, it actually isn't related to Landry Shamet, the player. I thought there were some interesting videos of him just shooter in the building type stuff that I remember Kellen shared and all the reporters. Videos of him shooting around. It basically seemed like he led every shooting drill. But specifically, he was asked a question about culture, and I thought he shared a really interesting quote. I want you to help me decipher if it's just lip service or if there's really something there. Landry Shamet on the Suns culture, he said, quote, "It's a we score mentality. It's all a collective. There's a lot of organizations that try to preach it, but it's not felt and translated, and that's not the case here at all." Landry Shamet has had a relatively short career in the NBA, as we know. He's only played in 3 organizations. The Philadelphia 76ers, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Brooklyn Nets all were very, very good teams by record with Shamet on the team. And then he comes here and he says some organizations don't have it, the Suns have it. What do you think, Mike? Buy or sell? To what extent has the Suns culture really transformed that players are saying this about us now? Or is he just trying to say what we want to hear?
I think that it's definitely transformed. And I love that idea of a we score mentality. Look, I guess I'm still in optimist season, right?
You are absolutely rolling.
I didn't realize
season, like I haven't seen in a while.
It's the internal development series, man. It's the internal development. I talked myself into this team to a very extreme extent in the internal development series. I think that was the main thing, and so I guess that's where I am. But like, I genuinely believe that Monty, forgive the pun or forgive the worded usage here, preaches the right things for the Suns. I genuinely do believe that. And I think that for Landry and for Monty, those two guys have sort of been circling each other for a long time here. And like they clearly wanted to work together. You know, Monty said that the Suns tried to get Landry Shamet for 2 years, and they finally were able to get Landry Shamet. And Landry Shamet clearly likes Monty Williams a lot. And I believe that Monty is the main reason. The combination of Monty, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker, along with, of course, James Jones, is what it takes to counteract Robert Sarver. And it works. It appears to work. Like this season will be a test of it. because there are very, very high expectations, and with the expectations can come disappointment, because happiness, as Jalen Rose says, is a measure of expectations. So if you expect more and you get slightly less, then your happiness goes down a lot. So that includes the owner at the very top. So this season will be a big measure of that, big test for that culture change. But I've been given no reason to believe that it's not real. So I have a hard time selling on that one. What do you think?
I'll buy it too, because I really do believe in the transformation that also James Jones has brought to this team, kind of from the top level and bringing in all the right guys. I think the more interesting thing here is just kind of, given what we know about Shamet's history, who do you think he's shading here? Because is he talking about whoever it is? He's either throwing shade at like the Embiid, Simmons led team,
probably.
which I think it's kind of easy to throw them. It's kind of easy to throw them under the bus right now.
Right.
Or he's talking about the Kawhi, PG Clippers, or he's talking about the big three Nets that he just played for. But
I don't think
regardless,
it's them.
it sounds
like
like
that's a Steve Nash coach team. So
Yeah.
I can't say it's them.
I could see it being the Clippers, man. I could see it being
it's
about the
definitely
Clippers.
possible.
I think the Sixers is the obvious choice that like people are going to go with, but I think a lot of that is kind of revisionist of like Ben Simmons was not always like this. 2 years ago or whenever Shamet played for them, he was not like this.
I mean, truthfully, he played on those two teams and they didn't really have a point guard. So just having a point guard like Chris Paul, I think makes a big difference. Of course, Brooklyn had two great point guards and then Kevin Durant, so they'll do fine. I want to read a quote. Yeah. Forgive me for reading a quote from a Ted Lasso episode, but I'm about to read a quote from a Ted Lasso episode. He said, the character Beard said, "We used to believe that trees competed with each other for light. And now we realize that the forest is a socialist community, trees working in harmony to share the sunlight." And I'll be honest, I heard that quote and I thought of Monty Williams, because I thought, oh, that's a we score. Trees have a we score mentality.
They do.
With sunlight. But yeah, that's something that stood out to me in this last episode. Let's move on.
I think that's a good way to end that one. Moving on to the next one, I've just titled this one JaVale McThree. Yeah. And it's just Gerald, another video from Gerald.
Sell.
He was killing it. I was going to say, if you bought this one, I might have to kill you. JaVale McGee, along with the other bigs, shooting threes in practice. I watched about a 50-second clip that Gerald posted here, and I saw JaVale shoot 2 for 6 from deep, a solid 33%. That is, for my advanced stat nerds, that's 1 point per possession. What do you think?
I'm very excited for the occasional JaVale 3 with the shot clock running down or the time running out in a quarter. I'm excited for that. But I hope that's the only time he takes one.
That sounds like something that's going to happen like twice.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
And
we're going to celebrate. I'm going to tweet out the clip. People are going to love it. And I hope he never shoots them in the flow of the regular offense. He did it for the Nuggets. He shot more threes for the Nuggets per minute than he had in any other stops in his career. Why? Well, he's playing with another center, essentially, with Jokic.
And if you look at his true shooting percentage with the Nuggets, you can see
it was the worst of his career, or the worst in a long time. So I hope he never shoots them. There's just really no reason for him to do it. He's going to be moving a lot, setting a lot more screens on this team than he was for the Nuggets. So yeah, I'm selling on that one.
All right. Last one. I will sell as well, by the way. Last one, final quotable that I thought was interesting to share coming out of training camp, and it's from the man himself, James Jones. I don't think he was all that present in talking to the media. He maybe only talked to them really on media day. But this one's shared by our friend Saul Bookman over at PHNX now. And he said, from James Jones, "I don't think you can ever have too many Elfrid Paytons on your team!" Exclamation point. Mike, buy or sell?
I think you can have too many. One is kind of the right amount, I think, only if they're the third string. I
will say, what I learned this week was that Chris Paul and Elfrid Payton have a weird connection, apparently. Chris Paul really vouched for Elfrid Payton to get on the Suns. And apparently they've known each other since before Elfrid was in the league. That's how long Chris has known him. I didn't explore deep enough to know exactly why, but I thought that was interesting. In terms of basketball talent, I really hope Elf Lord is able to turn it around this year.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
A team of 10 Elfrid Paytons, right? 5 Elfrid Paytons on the court at a time. Constantly new fresh Elfrid Paytons that never get tired. You just put them in and out. Could they win a single game?
Is this like that question where you're asked, you have to fight off waves of
Yeah.
Third grade.
I'm just
Elfrid
saying.
Paytons, 5 at a time.
I'm saying who's the
How
worst
many
team?
ways-
Who's the worst team in the NBA right now? OKC when
OKC,
SGA
yeah.
sits, maybe.
It's got to
So
be OKC.
Let's say SGA takes a game off. There's 5 Elfrid Paytons on the floor up against OKC. Could those 5 Elfrid Paytons win a game against OKC?
Are they Elfrid Paytons of varying sizes relative to their position?
They're just Elfrid Payton.
Then I think they're really going to struggle to rebound and score inside, and do stuff like that. Now, if you but if you gave me Elfrid Payton, right? Stay with me. And then the Elfrid Payton equivalent at shooting guard, and then the Elfrid Payton equivalent at small forward.
And like
right?
a 7-foot Elfrid Payton at center.
Yeah, give me, who's the 7-foot Elfrid Payton?
Maybe JaVale, actually. I don't know.
Like
Elfrid Payton's good at dribbling, so a
like
7-foot Elfrid Payton would be pretty good.
Like a Boban type, maybe? I'm just saying, I think that team, I think even the process Sixers proved to us that even the worst assemblage of parts could win 9 or 10 games.
I think
and
that
I think
a
a team
7-foot
of
Elfrid Payton is a good player. That's
a
a really
7-foot
good.
yeah,
That's basically
no,
that's like Bam at a bio.
Yeah,
That's a good defender.
I meant like the center version of it. Yeah, but a 7-foot Elfrid Payton is kind of better than Ben Simmons. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
I think we definitively proved that you can have too many Elfrid Paytons there, though. They wouldn't win very many games. You got nothing else there, right?
I got nothing. Let's go to break.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Monty Williams. I think the one thing that we kept coming back to in the internal development series is the challenges for Monty Williams this season, and we're going to talk about that after this break. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Ro. Confidence is everything. Women can sense it, and trust me, they love it. But if you're in your head worried about performance, that swag, unfortunately, gentlemen, it's gone. Rose Sparks keeps you ready. When the moment hits, you can step up like a superhero and handle your business. No doubt, just confidence.
Fellas, Rose Sparks gets you ready fast, dissolving under your tongue and working in 15 minutes on average. No waiting, no missing the moment, plus it stays active up to 36 hours.
So when the mood hits, you can go back to back to back, round after round after round. Ro connects guys with medical provider 100% online, so there's no awkward conversation with in-person providers. Go to ro.com/sparks to see if you qualify. If prescribed, new sexual health patients gets $15 off Sparks on reoccurring plan. Connect with the provider at ro.co/fourth to find out if prescriptions Ro Sparks are right for you. That's ro.co/fourth for $15 off your first order. If approved, treatment ships directly to their door. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and or manufacturing review. For full safety information, go to ro.co/safety info.
Let's be honest. Shopping, not my thing. I go to the store. There's a lot of people that, it's just not my thing. It's not football. All right. I spend way too long scrolling websites just looking for something simple like a nice pair of jeans. And I'm either overwhelmed by all the choices or can't find anything my style and end up with stuff that doesn't fit and doesn't work. That's why I use Stitch Fix. You just take a quick style quiz, share your size, your vibe, and your budget, and boom, you're matched with a real human stylists who handle the rest. They take care of the work for you. They send you a fix box with clothes that actually fit and make sense for your life, work, weekends, whatever. It saves you time. You look great, and you don't even have to think about it. That's the best part. It's no risk, all style. Try it all on in the comfort of your home. Keep what works, send back the rest. Free shipping and returns, always, and no subscription required. Plus, get a free try-on for your first fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com/podcast to get $20 off your first order, and they'll waive your styling fee. That's stitchfix.com/podcast.
All right, Sam, we just finished our internal development series, and I think that's leading to the conversation that we're about to have. I think, in a sense, we're gonna have the Monty Williams internal development conversation here. More than anything else, I think that this is going to lead to a lot of people being mad at Monty Williams, depending on how you feel about certain players on the Suns, because there's only a certain amount of possessions that can go around, and he's the guy that has to juggle those possessions, him and his coaching staff, of course. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, are there any players that you wanted to touch on that we left off the internal development series? Because there are a few other guys. There's Abdul Nader that we always forget. He's on the team. Abdul. Jalen Smith.
I don't. Yep.
Jalen Smith is a guy that could legitimately get a lot better this season because he wasn't very good last year. Landry Shamet, not young, but essentially similar to Nader in age. And then Elfrid Payton, also not super young. But these are younger guys that have an opportunity, I think, to still improve. Is there any one of those guys that stand out that you just want to quickly touch on before we move on to Monty?
Yeah, they're certainly not falling off in their athleticism yet. I think Nader is actually pretty interesting, given that they did, not to deserve his own episode, but as an honorable mention, like right here, they never replaced Torrey Craig. So we've talked about it a little bit before, but we have a bit of an interesting conundrum in like our 9th/10th spot in the rotation, like that kind of power forward spot where either you just play Cam Johnson a lot more minutes, which they totally could do, or you have to find someone to wedge in there where Torrey Craig was playing, and that either has to be Jalen Smith or Abdul Nader. Based on what I've seen from Nader, the fact that Monty was so trusting in putting Abdul Nader in just a few of those minutes in the playoffs directly after he came back from injury, I think I would bet on Nader being like a 10-minute per game guy from the get-go this season with the potential to play himself into more. And I was just fumbling around with the B-Ball Index. I know we've quoted so much of their stuff recently, but they have this lineup kind of optimization tool, which takes like different, I think I've referenced it before on this podcast, but it takes different concepts like your playmaking, your ability to get to the rim, your spacing, things like that. And it assigns a grade to every single player. And it allows you to pair any 5 players. They could be on the same team, but they also could just be any player on different rosters throughout the league. And you can put together hypothetical lineups and try to build the best lineup according to those concepts. And so the reason I was using this, I was trying to find the best Suns lineup according to each concept that they track, but specifically one that I thought was interesting was the Suns' ability to get to the rim. That was the only concept. Again, there's spacing, there's playmaking, there's finishing at the rim. All of these, I was able to find a Suns lineup that ranked out in the 96th, 97th, 98th percentile, like the advanced analytical tool or whatever thought, this, you put the starting lineup together, they can shoot. You put this lineup together, they can finish at the rim. You put this lineup together with the 3 guards, they can whip the ball around. But the one place where I struggled was the best combination of players that I could find for the Suns at getting to the rim was still only in the 78th percentile, which is good, but not very good in the grand scheme of things, especially if you're not going to play that lineup together all that much. And here's the important part. The guy who absolutely had to be involved in that lineup in order to even get up to there was Abdul Nader, because he really is good. And it's a very unique skill to him and not many other guys on this roster at just putting his head down and going for it. And that's going to be something that the Suns need sometimes. So I think Nader deserves a shout out. He's going to play a role.
I think a couple things on Nader. He's a good shooter. He's fearless when it comes to attacking the rim. He's not afraid to shoot, which I think is a huge thing. He has that sort of Jay Crowder, no conscience thing. And he has arms as long as Mikal Bridges. Like, this is a nice tool in the toolbox for Monty Williams, and he's going to get minutes as a result. And, of course, with Torrey Craig being gone, that means that he's definitely going to get those minutes. So that's a good one to point out. I think Jalen Smith, there's just not enough. There's not enough data. There's not enough film for Jalen Smith. We've somehow we talked about Landry Shamet on every single internal development episode, so we don't need to get into him anymore, I think. One thing I want to say about Elfrid Payton real quick, and then we can move on. You talked about getting to the rim. I just thought this was so funny. Elfrid Payton, his getting to the rim rating on the B-Ball Index is in the 99th percentile.
Yeah, he was the other guy. So,
but his shot quality at the rim rating is a poop emoji. It's the 0 percentile.
It's the 0th. Yeah.
So
that's
one of the best at getting there and one of the worst at shooting once he gets there.
That's the thing. It doesn't mean anything if you can get there, and then once you're there, you don't do anything with it. So it's like Nader's not the best finisher in the NBA either, but he's really good at getting there, and then he can at least sometimes finish. Payton is amazing at getting there, and then it's what good does that do you?
And
But I will
his
give the
finishing
Suns-
is not terrible. I'll say that. Just as a rating, his finishing is not terrible. His decision making, when to shoot and when to pass out of it, is where that shot quality thing comes from. And if there's a defender there to block it, so yeah, I think he has to work on that a little bit in order to get any minutes. All right, let's talk about some things with Monty Williams specifically this season. And here's the main thing, I think. How does he balance development, like overall development of these players, with remaining one of the best teams in the league? And what do we value, like you and I, of course, and what does he value? And at what point does it switch from maybe development time of the year to winning time of the year? And I think this is important because I think home court advantage helped the Suns. You know, they made it to the NBA Finals. Chris Paul never likes to lose, regardless. He's going to optimize every single play. He's going to optimize every single dribble that he can. He does not want to waste time in the regular season. And for him, Chris Paul specifically, losing is a mindset. So you can't lose in the regular season and take that mindset into the playoffs. You know, you have to win every single game that you can and take that mindset into the playoffs. So what do you think, I guess, from your perspective, what do you think about this challenge for Monty Williams this season?
I think it's going to be really tough. And I think what you said a little bit earlier was pretty spot on. Unfortunately, it's a great problem for us to have. But I do think a lot of Suns fans are going to find themselves angry with Monty Williams at certain points throughout the season because maybe they don't quite realize or step back and reflect on what a difficult challenge that is to balance between all the various guys. We all want to see development out of Mikal Bridges and see him take the next leap. Same with DeAndre Ayton, same with Cam Johnson and so on. You could go down the whole roster.
Devin Booker even, yeah.
Devin Booker even, but you know, we did the series for a reason, but at the end of the day, you're trying to stay with what worked to an extent, get back to where you already were, and we know that the main priority in this offense is still going to be Chris Paul and Devin Booker. There's a formula that worked, and I think maybe 70 or 80% of what Monty is doing this season is going to be staying with that formula. Now, I could be totally wrong about that. One of the other interesting training camp quotes that I didn't put in our buy or sell series, but which piqued my interest, was when Cam Payne was asked about what Monty was kind of chefing up, and he said, I think it was Cam Payne who said this, I don't remember, but he said that Monty had them doing like entirely new stuff and kind of an entirely new playbook, like he had completely reinvented himself, and I doubt it's to that extent, but I am curious to see, like, because we're going to find out an answer pretty soon of where exactly Monty lies on this spectrum that you're talking about.
Yeah, I like you talked about, obviously Devin Booker and Chris Paul. I think the ability to create your own shot makes it easy for Monty Williams as far as just giving you the ball, and I think that's why beyond those two guys, there's going to be a competition. You're talking about people potentially being mad at Monty Williams. Monty Williams just saying that he thinks Mikal Bridges could be the third option for the Suns already had people debating in replies. Now, whether that be, I think that Ayton should be the second option, or beyond that, I think Chris Paul should be the fourth option. Some people are saying that. And like he's basically Rondo now. And look, that's exactly the type of debates, that's exactly the type of arguments, that's exactly the type of anger that, regardless of what happens, is going to happen because this team is stacked full of good players. That's a good problem to have, just like you said. But now I'll ask you, I'll throw it at you. Who do you think should get the most touches besides Devin Booker and Chris Paul? Like, or maybe a better way to say that is usage, because I think it's going to be DeAndre Ayton. If we're just measuring it off touches, which is an actual stat, it's DeAndre Ayton. He touches the ball a lot. He does the dribble handoffs. He's the guy coming up to the screen, and he's just around the ball so much more. And, you know, a touch around the basket on rebounds is a touch as well. So I think it's going to be Ayton. But maybe talking about usage, which is essentially, does your play end in a shot attempt or a free throw? Who do you think will get the most usage outside of those two guys?
Yeah, I think Ayton, kind of like we were talking about earlier in this episode, if he wants those opportunities, he can seize them to have so much freedom in the offense because, like you said, he is heavily involved at basically the initiation of every set, kind of from that high elbow to top of the key area. And so if he wants to start taking those dribbles, if he wants to start breaking guys down one-on-one and then make the pass, it doesn't always have to end in your own shot. I do think the opportunity is there for him. So touches-wise, it probably is Ayton. However, if I have to fall back on anyone, I still suspect that it's going to be Mikal Bridges with self-created offense, really taking a guy off the dribble and finishing over them with a jump shot. I think if that's what we're talking about, Mikal Bridges is the pretty clear answer.
Yeah, I think you're probably right as well. But I also think that it's going to be, ultimately, it's going to be a competition, the right kind of competition. At this point, it would be nice if you and I were talking about these two guys and understanding that they have already been signed to extensions. Because if they haven't, then their touches and what they do this season can affect the contract that they get at the end of the season. So we don't know if that's going to be the case. That's going to be part of the conversation later.
There's still a little bit of time to take care of that before this season begins, but I have to admit, it is a bit... This should be a friendly competition, not something that Suns fans are at each other's throats about, because it's such a silly thing. Whether it's your favorite player, your second favorite player is getting more touches is stupid. However, with the whole contract situation, there's a nasty undercurrent to it that can develop, and so I'm a little bit worried about that.
And this is why it's vital for Monty Williams to instill the we score mentality into these guys, because ultimately the best thing for your contract is just winning. Now, it's hard to preach that. It's hard to preach that the best thing for your contract is winning if they don't give these guys extensions after they made it to the NBA Finals. I'll be honest. You have to reinforce that with cash, Robert Sarver, in order to reinforce that to everybody on the team. So it would help if he just paid these guys at this point, because they did win a lot of games last season, the most the Suns have won in a very long time. But ultimately, these guys will be competing for those extra touches because there's not a lot of them. That could be really the guy that can most easily get touches out of any of the guys that we did the internal development episodes on. It's Cameron Payne. Really, that's the real truth there, because when he's on the floor, he's the point guard. The ball's in his hands the most. And he's very good at isolating. He's very good at picking his spots. And it's up to the other players to get good at that as well. Ayton's going to touch the ball a lot. Does he become more aggressive with it? Does he turn and face the basket instead of just facing away from it and try to dribble towards the rim? Or does he develop his shot to a point where he's confident enough shooting that over and over and over again when they drop off of him, or driving by them when they step up to him? Or is it Mikal Bridges and his ability to run the pick and roll, which the Suns do run a lot of? And it's up to those guys to find the time and the space within the offense to do that. And it's up to Suns fans, I think, to also develop that we score mentality. If the Suns win a lot of games this season, and you end a game where Ayton only took 5 shots, or you end a game where Mikal only took 3 or 4 shots, who cares? They won. We have to feel that way too, because that's how they feel on the team, and that's the attitude that they're trying to instill. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
You got to realize that the Twitter culture, you're kind of getting into a whole cultural thing there, where it's not everyone who participates in Suns Twitter, and this applies for any team uniformly across the league,
or
is
Reddit.
actually, or Reddit, or anywhere online in this hellhole that is the internet. Not everyone's actually a fan of the team. Some people are only a fan of certain players, and so that's where it can get nasty sometimes. Just don't engage with it heavily. If you see people trying to pit Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton together this season, you should instantly know that that's just silliness. It's not worth your time.
Yeah, and I look, I'll advise people, don't get into those arguments. Don't even get into it. Those two guys are friends, and they want each other to be successful, and we should want both of them and all of the team to be successful as well. And I think part of this conversation is, how much does Chris Paul play? And how much, I think, say, does Monty Williams have in that? They did bring a point guard in. They didn't bring players that, Elfrid Payton should not play with Chris Paul. They should not be on the floor at the same time. That means Elfrid Payton was brought in to be on the floor when Chris Paul was not. Do you think that Monty Williams, now we both agree that the ideal scenario for the Suns is they try to keep Chris Paul as healthy as possible for the postseason. And that also gives Monty Williams a chance to give the guys that get less touches when Chris Paul plays more touches when he sits, whether that be back-to-backs or whatever it is, maybe some rest before the postseason. Do you think that Monty Williams will actually have a say in that at all with Chris Paul?
Yeah, I think he will. And I think, if you just look at the facts of how the roster is constructed, you don't even have to get down to Peyton. Cam Payne played 18 minutes a game last year. He didn't do well in the past when he was a starting point guard, but he was a starting point guard for a couple of years when he was trying to come up in the league. He would routinely play 25 plus minutes. He can easily handle that workload. If you start playing Chris Paul 28 minutes, 27 minutes instead of 30, and you up Payne to 21, 22 instead of 18, it could easily sort of work. Is Chris Paul going to allow Monty to do it? I really think he should. And I guess this is where, it's speculation, so we don't really know, but I have a suspicion that as long as the Suns are winning games, Chris Paul doesn't really have anything to complain about. I think he could get on board. I really don't think it's asking too much to say, hey, can you play 3 fewer minutes per game so we can do a little bit more experimentation, figure things out. He's still going to play the final 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, the real important parts. I think he could get on board.
Chris Paul just signed his last NBA contract. Really, I mean, there's a chance he plays after that. It's kind of unlikely, especially if he somehow plays all 4 years of this contract. He'll be in his 40s at that point. And, maybe, I don't know, Tom Brady's doing some amazing things. Maybe he'll find his way onto the bench of a team and be able to come off the bench and do what he does from mid-range. But, in all likelihood, this is his last stop. And I think that we need to preserve him as much as possible. And I've said it before, I hope it means less flopping too, because I think he could get injured on some of those flops, and they're not going to call them this year, maybe. So he's got to take care of his body in every single way possible.
And to that point, the bag is mostly secured in the sense that this is his last NBA contract probably, but the bag is not entirely secured. If he wants to get to that final 40 or 45 million that's guaranteed on the back end of that contract, right? It's going to suit him better. There's more of a chance that the Suns will do that for him in the future if he's routinely given you, 70, and I know it doesn't always work this way, but if he's given you 70 games a year, you can afford for him to miss some time. But if
he's Stockton,
if he gives you 70 games a year and he's only playing 26 minutes, you would much rather have that than he tries to play 32, 33, 34 minutes, and that's when something catastrophic happens, and now suddenly he's playing 40 games a season, if not less. So, be cautious, take the step back, and that really allows all those other guys that we were covering in the internal development series to experiment with various parts of their game. I'm not worried about it really affecting the Suns' play in the standings all that much either, if I'm being honest.
Let me ask you this. Does it feel like, barring an injury, that Cameron Johnson's the guy that's kind of going to get left out here? Now, whether that be opportunities or chances to handle the ball, or even in the future when this team is sort of staring down signing other guys, that might be the guy that says, I'm not getting enough opportunities here. I might have to go somewhere else to find it. Now, that's no fear for this year at all. But, do the Suns have the opportunities for Cameron Johnson? He sort of falls pretty far back in the pecking order of guys.
He does.
Maybe he starts. We talked about it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe he starts, and that kind of makes up for it. But I don't know that there's more opportunities with the starting lineup than in the bench. He might have more on the bench.
First of all, let's consider how, just to prep people, I guess, how ultimately rare it is to really sustain a core together of young guys like this for years and years and years. Eventually, I don't know when it's going to be. Maybe it's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. But the likelihood of having Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson all together for half a decade or more, the only way that's happening is if the Suns build a real dynasty here, that they start winning championships right now. So that's the first thing. But the other thing is, you just said yourself, you were talking about Cam Payne leading that second unit, that he had more opportunity for increased usage than anyone. Cam Johnson's right there. It's on him to step up. If he wants the opportunity, if he wants, there's no room for him to feel left out necessarily if he's not seizing the opportunities that he has, and I think he will have plenty. Yeah. At the end of the day, we look at what Cam Johnson is right now, and we've talked a lot about what he can be, but so far he's been 90% a spot-up shooter. He does drive sometimes. He's good in transition when he does. Just like everyone else on the roster, though, he needs to seize those opportunities himself, because he does get them in the offense. It's on him to create those kickouts, to prove maybe that he can play a little bit in the pick and roll like Mikal Bridges has. So he's just behind the development of some of these other guys, but that's okay.
Yeah. I think there's a chance that the the whole team is different, or like part of the team is different by the end of the season.
By the end of the season. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Not the whole team, I should say. Just like these sort of rotations could change depending on guys and their opportunities to play and who earns it, who doesn't, maybe. Or even if there's if somehow Thaddeus Young is added to the team before the season starts. You know, there was, of course, reported rumors of the Suns trying to trade for him. I don't think they have the assets the Spurs want. Not a lot to entice them unless Jalen Smith comes out and plays really well. So say somehow they do get Thaddeus Young. That throws another really good player into the mix, and it's going to be difficult to find touches even more than even the current situation where they have a bunch of great players. But I think it's important for us to once again remind people this is a good problem to have, and it's the problem that comes with being a good team. You know, ultimately, I think for us, you and I, we have to be fair to Monty Williams this season. In our analysis, 2 episodes a week, every single week. Of course, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to get into decisions that were made in individual games. I do my best. I try to not overanalyze coaches' decisions in regular season games. Once again, I'll say what I've said. Coaches are made or broken in the NBA playoffs. It's best to judge coaches by the decisions they make when it's a sort of a win or go home scenario like the playoffs. There's just a lot to juggle in the regular season. There's the development. There's the idea of winning. There's things, specific things and skills that the players have been working on in practice that they're trying to implement in a game that may not go well the first or second time, or lineups that will look good in practice that they're trying out in regular games. So it's difficult to do that. So I guess, Suns fans who are listening, keep this in mind. And you and I guess, we got to keep it in mind, right?
I'll keep it in mind. I mean, I don't think we've been overly unfair to Monty at this point, certainly, but it's something that I'll keep in mind as we progress. And hey, I'll throw in James Jones too. If you really have faith in James Jones, as I think you should, after the past year, then you kind of don't sweat it about, what if Cam Johnson gets, wants to seize more opportunity and asks out, Mikal Bridges, obviously, you want to keep these players here while they're good long term because they have tangible talent that we can all see, and they help the Suns be a better team. But if James Jones is really worth his salt as a GM, there's forwards like Cam Johnson in the draft all the time. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but is he a franchise changing player? If James Jones is really a good GM, he can find more Cam Johnsons. He can find more Landry Shamits. He can find even more Mikal Bridges. DeAndre Ayton, I think, is a little bit of a different beast. I think there's a reason he was number 1 overall. He just has natural athletic talents that you just don't teach that. But even guys like Mikal Bridges, and especially other guys who are lower on the roster, it's obviously you want to keep this core together as long as you possibly can. But if you really have faith in James Jones to being as good of a GM as all of you say he is, and I agree for the record, then you trust in the process that he has, that if he comes to a point where he has just too much of this plethora of talent and some guys are asking out because they're only getting 10 minutes per game when they want 14 or 15 on a middling team instead. If that happens, and I'm not saying it will, but if it does, you trust that he goes out and he finds replacements because that's what a good GM does. Yeah. Every GM has to deal with finding replacements all the time, finding reinforcements.
The pressure's on. The pressure's on this season. It's on for Monty, for Booker, for Chris Paul, for James Jones, for DeAndre Ayton, for Mikal Bridges, for even Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder's been to the finals multiple times, has not yet won. The pressure is on this year in a way that it hasn't been since Steve Nash was on the Phoenix Suns for this team. And the next time you and I are recording, we'll be talking about preseason basketball, NBA basketball, on my TV. And for those who want to hear it, our next episode will actually be this Wednesday on our Patreon. Once again, just come back to that. If you want to sign up, patreon.com/thetimeline. Download the Patreon app. I highly recommend it. It's the easiest way to listen to podcasts. We're going to record after the preseason game this Wednesday, which there will be 2 by that point, and probably Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when it is. You'll be able to hear that episode. And hopefully we'll have other content we will have other content uploaded on our Patreon for you to check out. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back then. Sam, you got anything else before we go here?
Nope. Thank you so much for listening. As always, enjoy the basketball this week. It's not going to be
NBA basketball.
Yeah, it's enjoy
Preseason.
Chandler Hutchinson and Chasen Randall, and
Landry Shamet might be starting.
We'll see.